What if the grandest work of a kingdom never reached its purpose? In a quiet valley between rolling green hills stands a bridge of pale stone. Strong arches rise gracefully across the air, built with skill and sweat. But at the far end, there is nothing. No road, no village, no connection. Just grass and silence. Travelers call it the bridge that led nowhere. Yet, behind its unfinished stones lies a human story of workers who dreamed, rulers who debated, and a people who turned failure into folklore. This is the forgotten tale of the bridge that never found its road. The story. The dream begins. In the early years of a small mountain kingdom, rulers dreamt of prosperity. They wanted trade routes to bring wealth, to connect their valley to the larger world. And so, the king announced a bold project, a bridge across the river, sturdy enough to last centuries. The people cheered. They imagined caravans of goods rolling into their market squares, spices and fabrics from distant lands, and their humble valley turning into a center of commerce. The masons were summoned, the stone quarried, the wood cut. Work began at dawn with the ringing of hammers and the shouts of overseers. Building the arches. The bridge rose arch by arch. Limestone blocks, white and heavy, were dragged from quarries on wooden sledges pulled by oxen. Workers balanced on scaffolds, laying stones with aching backs. Children gathered at the riverbanks to watch the progress. Each day they returned to see how far the bridge had stretched. Old men leaned on their walking sticks and nodded with pride. The builders believed they were raising not just a structure, but a promise for the future. The first problem. But as the bridge neared completion, the problems began. The road it was meant to meet, stretching into the hills, proved more difficult than expected. The terrain was rocky, the soil unstable, the expense immense. Council meetings grew heated. Some nobles argued, "We must finish what we began. Without the road, the bridge is but a stone skeleton." Others countered, "The kingdom's coffers run dry. Do you want starving peasants or a grand road to nowhere?" The debates dragged on while the bridge stood waiting. A half-finished vision. Seasons passed. The bridge remained complete in form but incomplete in purpose. Its far end met only grass and empty fields. Merchants who visited laughed. One wrote in his diary, "A fine bridge, but it leads to nothing but sheep and wildflowers, a monument to wasted coin." But the villagers saw it differently. For them, the bridge became a gathering place. Lovers met on its arches at sunset. Shepherds led flocks halfway across to graze. Children invented games, running to the unfinished end and daring each other to look into the abyss of grass below. The bridge may have failed in purpose, but it succeeded in life. Legends grow. In time, folktales surrounded the bridge. Some said it was cursed, that anyone who tried to finish the road would vanish, like the rulers who first dreamed of it. Others claimed that on midsummer nights, ghostly wagons could be seen crossing into the mist, traveling along the invisible road that never came to be. Villagers whispered these stories by firelight, passing them to their children. And so, the bridge lived not as infrastructure, but as legend, weather and time. The years wore on. Snow filled the cracks in winter. Moss crept along the stones in spring. Birds nested in the arches. Travelers came and went, always puzzled, always curious. Yet the bridge endured. Its limestone held firm, its arches unbroken. Though the kingdom itself began to weaken, its rulers gone, its power faded, the bridge remained like a skeleton of ambition. The modern view. Centuries later, when the kingdom itself was gone, the bridge still stood. Maps labeled it Pons Inutilis, the useless bridge. Tourists began to visit, taking photographs of its unfinished end. Children still played on its stones, just as centuries earlier. Shepherds still used it to corral sheep. Musicians even used its arches to echo their songs at festivals. Historians debated, was it a folly, a failure, or a reminder of human striving? Some argued it showed the danger of ambition beyond means. Others believed it symbolized hope, that even unfinished dreams leave beauty behind. Closing reflection. The bridge that led nowhere still stands today, moss-covered and silent. It is a story not of triumph, but of incompletion, a reminder that not all human dreams are fulfilled, yet even broken plans leave their mark. Perhaps its lesson is this: not every bridge has to carry us somewhere. Some exist to remind us of the journeys we hope to take. and in their silence they speak. What happens to a kingdom when its rulers vanish one by one? Imagine walking into a great stone hall, echoing with silence. Once it was filled with voices, kings and queens seated proudly on carved thrones, courtiers whispering, guards standing tall. But now, all that remains are the thrones themselves, row after row standing empty. This is not a tale of conquest or glorious battles. This is the story of a forgotten land, where power slipped away quietly, leaving only stone seats behind. Today, we uncover the mystery of the Kingdom of Empty Thrones. The story. A hall of power. Long ago, in the heart of a modest kingdom, stood a hall unlike any other. It was not a palace of gold or marble, nor a fortress of iron. Instead, it was built of pale limestone, smooth to the touch yet bearing the marks of chisels left behind by patient masons. Inside this hall were thrones. Not one, not two, but many, an unusual sight, for most realms crowned only a single ruler. Here, however, the tradition was different. The kingdom was ruled by a council of monarchs, each seated on their own throne, each holding a share of power. The people marveled at the sight. A row of chairs carved from oak and ash, covered in embroidered cloth, trimmed with bronze or silver. Behind every throne, banners hung, dyed in deep colors, reds, blues, and greens, each symbolizing a different house. It was a system meant to balance ambition, to prevent one ruler from claiming too much. Together, they were to govern fairly, wisely, and with patience. The first empty seat. But as time passed, the balance began to tremble. The first empty throne appeared not through death, but through disappearance. One summer morning, as the council gathered, one seat stood vacant. The ruler who belonged to it had not arrived. Messengers were sent to his estate, but he was gone. His guards had no answers. His servants whispered of a carriage that left in the night, never returning. The council continued, thinking he would come back. But days stretched into weeks, and the throne remained unfilled. For the first time, the hall looked uneven. The people muttered, "What use is a throne without its master?" One by one. Then came another absence. And another. Sometimes it was a sudden illness. Sometimes it was a disappearance in the dark. Sometimes it was a quiet abdication, where a ruler simply walked away, leaving the kingdom behind. The reasons varied, but the result was the same. One more throne stood empty. The chroniclers of the time grew restless. One wrote, "It is as though a wind has swept through our kingdom, carrying away its leaders like leaves. The thrones endure, but their weight grows heavier with absence." The people's perspective. For the villagers, life went on. Farmers still planted barley, millers still ground flour, shepherds still led sheep into the hills. But they noticed the silence from the hall. In the markets, rumors spread. The thrones are cursed. Children played a game, running past the hall and daring each other to peek inside at the empty seats. Mothers warned them not to linger too long near the Hall of Vanishing Kings, the final throne. At last, the inevitable happened. The last ruler sat alone, surrounded by vacant thrones. He held court in silence, issuing decrees that few listened to. His face grew lined, his shoulders heavy. And then one winter night, he too was gone. When dawn came, the guards opened the doors and found only silence. His throne stood empty like all the others. The banners hung limp, the hall echoing with nothing but the wind. From that day onward, no new ruler came. The abandoned hall. Seasons passed. Grass sprouted between the stones of the courtyard. Birds nested in the beams overhead. The embroidered cloth on the thrones faded and frayed, moths eating away at their edges. But the thrones themselves remained. Carved wood, strong and unyielding, watching centuries go by. Travelers sometimes stumbled upon the hall. They described the sight as unsettling. I entered a place where kings once ruled. Their chairs still stand in rows, but all are vacant. I felt as though the rulers had only just risen and stepped away, leaving me to wander among their ghosts. Symbolism. In time, the kingdom itself faded. Borders shifted, villages shrank, names changed. But the story of the empty thrones lived on. Poets wrote verses about them, comparing the seats to promises broken or to dreams left unfinished. Historians debated whether the rulers had truly vanished or whether their line simply withered away. Some claimed the empty thrones symbolized the futility of power, that no matter how many leaders sit, time will strip the seats bare. Others argued they represented hope, that someday new rulers might return to claim them. The modern view. Today, the hall is little more than a ruin. Its roof is long gone, its banners dust. Yet if you wander the countryside and ask the locals, they will still tell you, that is the Hall of Empty Thrones. Tourists who visit are struck not by grandeur but by absence. They take photographs of the empty chairs, their wood cracked but still upright. And for a moment, they feel the same unease the villagers once felt. That power is fragile, that authority can vanish, that even a throne may outlive the one who claims it. But, closing reflection, the story of the Kingdom of Empty Thrones is not about battles or victories. It is about silence, about how power can dissolve not with a shout, but with a whisper. Perhaps the thrones remind us of our own ambitions, projects left unfinished, dreams that slip away, legacies that time erases. And yet, they also remind us that history is made not only by what is built, but also by what is left behind. For in those empty chairs we hear the echoes of rulers long forgotten, and the quiet truth that nothing, not even a throne, is forever.